Alright, today we're going to be looking at the ThruNite Archer 1A V3. It is a single AA 200 lumen flashlight from ThruNite.
Where are you going? Get out of the way!
I've long talked about how I like single AA flashlights because there's always somewhere you can steal a single AA battery for them to power them, whether it's a remote control or a desk drawer somewhere. It seems AA's are so ubiquitous in our society that even if your light isn't rechargeable or you don't have the charger for the rechargeable battery that you can put in a replacement of a AA, you can almost always find AA batteries, which is something you can't say about D's or C cells or CR123s that are never there when you need them to be when your light goes out at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're working. I use a single AA battery for my backup light at work. You can see that in my video up here about my duty belt and all the components that go along with it. As a little more than double the output of the light that I currently use as my backup light. Now, as we do with every flashlight review here on Free Field Training, I'm going to put this light not up against the backup light, but against the light that I currently use as my duty light, the Streamlight Stinger LED. I do this as a standard of measure so that people get an idea when comparing the lights of what each one does out in the real world on the street. We're going to put it in a couple of real world scenarios so that you can see how the light actually performs under conditions that you might actually use it in.
We're going to start our comparison with a pretty typical law enforcement setting, a dark alley between a business and a house, and you've got some forward lighting coming off the front of the garage. It's going to make it kind of hard to see down the alley even with a good flashlight. First, we're going to look at my duty light I'm using now, the Streamlight Stinger LED. It gets a lot of throw, which helps us see down the alley when we have this front lighting situation here. You can see that for the throw, what you end up losing is a lot of flood abilities. Now, when we switch over to the ThruNite, we can see that we don't get quite as much throw, but we can see a lot of what's going on right in front of us. This works out pretty well as a backup flashlight, and I'll show you why here in a second. Now, when we go to trying to punch through tinted glass, this is just normal Mopar tinted glass on the side of a minivan. You can see the Streamlight Stinger LED gets in there and it creates one bright spot of light because it has a lot of throw. It can punch through the glass, but it doesn't allow a lot of flood. It doesn't allow you to see the totality of what's going on inside the car. And this is really where I think we're going to end up using a backup flashlight more than anything else. When we come up to a car, we've forgotten that our light is starting to get dim, or we end up standing next to a car for a long period of time while we're waiting for a name to come back. If the Secretary of State or BMV is running slow, we're going to end up having to go to our backup flashlight. That's what I find myself doing most with a backup flashlight. And if you look at how this backup flashlight performs, it pushes the light through. We don't get just a bright spot in one place, but we get more of a glow inside the car that gives us more situational awareness. So as a backup light, I think this would really excel. Now, finally, people like to see a good throw test over a longer distance. So here we're about 40, 50 yards away from this building. You've seen this in other flashlight review videos that we've done before. Here's the Streamlight Stinger LED. You can see again, it pushes out a nice big spot on the side of the building. You can clearly see what's going on in that spot and very clearly see what's going on when you have the light directly in front of you. When we move over to the ThruNite, we don't get as much throw, and it would be a little harder to identify something at that distance, but we'd still be able to see that people are there, and that's really what we're asking for with a backup flashlight, that it'll do the majority of the job that our primary light would do when it's either broken or, more likely, when the batteries are drained.
So you've seen how the light performs out on the street, and now we're going to talk a little bit about how the thing functions. The ThruNite Archer 1A V3 has a tail switch. It is just both momentary and click on. So I can get a momentary flash, or I can click the light on, and it is controlled, the UI is controlled through the little switch on the light head that's becoming more popular on these types of lights. It has memory so that the light will always fire up at the mode you left it on. This is high at 200 lumens. If we push the little switch on the light head once, it's going to go down to Firefly mode. It's going to go down to Firefly mode. Firefly mode is maybe 10-15 lumens. You can see here it's not blowing out the camera. We click it again, we get medium. We click it again, and we get high. And then we click it again, and we get turbo. It is not the off and, oh my god, it's the sun that I prefer with my backup flashlights, but it is pretty close, and the ability to leave the pocket clip where it can protect the UI switch is actually really convenient. You see where the pocket clip's at, and it kind of sticks out a little bit over the switch that changes modes, and it keeps it from switching accidentally in your pocket. I've been using this light for the last couple of weeks in my duty vest as my backup light, and I think I'm going to leave it in there. We're going to get a little long-term durability information on it as a replacement to my Energizer 1AA that I was using before. It not only compares favorably with the 1AA light that I'm using now, which puts out about 60 lumens, but it more than doubles the light output without changing the size or the type of battery that it uses. That's all the win as far as I'm concerned. It is $30, which is a little more than a single AA battery from the cheapest manufacturers, but not as much as the single AA batteries from the most expensive manufacturers. It lands somewhere in the middle without losing out a whole bunch in performance to the higher end lights. I've always said backup flashlights are free, just like backup guns are free. Use whatever you want to use, and you don't need to spend a whole lot of money on a backup flashlight for the amount of time that you're actually going to use it, because you're only going to use it when the light you use all the time, the rechargeable light, goes dead. This, I think, would be a pretty good option for anybody that's looking for a backup flashlight that starts eking into the territory of their duty light as far as performance is concerned. Until next week, you guys be safe. Take care of each other. I'd like to thank all the Patreon supporters, and especially the Shift Supervisor level Patreon supporters that we have listed here. Your contributions are what allows free field training to continue on and become better. Thank you.